Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Dream Big podcast with Bob Goff and friends. I'm your co-host, Scott Schimmel. I'm here with Bob Goff.
Hey, everyone. I'm glad you're here again today, and I think we're going to have a good time today.
Yeah, we are interviewing Bethany Hamilton, who is definitely a household name, but just in case you forgot, who is Bethany?
Oh, amazing, brilliant mom, speaker, educator, motivational person. Many people heard of her tragedy when she was young and she lost her arm to a shark attack in Hawaii. But unrelenting in her determination. That's the way that I would describe Bethany. And more than just a physical attribute, it's the character of the person that you're going to learn, the tenacity and go forward of somebody that just has an ambition, is going after it. And so I think you're really going to enjoy hearing from Bethany.
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody who's gone through life without unexpected losses, changes. Obviously, hers is very extreme, remarkable. But as you're listening to this interview, pay attention to the things that have happened in your life that you didn't plan on, you didn't plan for. And a lot of this conversation is, how do you dream big in the midst of things that have changed? So listen in, take notes, and we're thrilled to have Bethany on the podcast.
Bethany, thank you so much for making time to sit down today. It's so good to see you.
Thanks for having me. It's been a fun few days.
Yes, we've been doing Dream Big and dreaming some dreams, and it's been so fun to find out a little bit about your family. For the two people on Earth that don't know you yet, tell us about a little bit about yourself and this adventure you've been on.
Okay, yeah. So I'm from Hawaii. I was born and raised, and I grew up surfing very competitively. I had an amazing family, still have an amazing family, and we're all very tight-knit, and we all surround our kind of life around our two greatest passions, God and surfing. So it just makes for a real fun life.
And how long have you been surfing for? When did you start?
I started surfing since I was a baby, and my whole family surfs. So I was just kind of jumping on the bandwagon. And now today, and for those of you who don't know, I lost my arm to a shark surfing when I was 13. And long story short, I got back into surfing, and now I'm a professional surfer today, and just do a lot of kind of motivational living.
So that's
I just am doing my thing, but I share it along the way and try to inspire people in their own journeys of overcoming and just life's ups and downs and how to navigate it all. And I get to share life now with my husband, Adam, who's amazing, and our two boys, Wesley and Tobias. So
now, this wasn't the path that you would have picked. You just say, you had this, your passions, you love God, you had some things that you like to do. Surfing was definitely a big one on there. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you're put in this place of being a person that is inspiring other people. How have you navigated that in your own personal life? Because you're really chill, low key, and then people say, oh no, your life could inspire other people. How have you received that?
Oh my gosh, as a young teenager, because immediately my whole life was just national and world news. So all of a sudden I became a household name, and I actually really didn't like it. I loved simplicity, and I didn't care for fame. I liked just being home in Hawaii and keeping things real simple. So all of a sudden it was just, life was crazy, but I also had like a real sense of peace that God was in control of everything, and that we were going to get through it, and that there was a reason for what I was going through and the pain that I was facing. And so even at 13, I just had trust that God was going to carry me through this, and I was just thankful for all that I had in life.
We talk about on the Dream Big podcast setbacks and how do we respond. And so each person that's listening, whether they're stuck in traffic or they're making a meal or doing a deal, they're listening to this and they say like, wow, that's a really big setback. But there have been other setbacks, no doubt, that you've had in your life. Mm-hmm. This is one that people know about.
Yes.
How do you navigate all of them, not just this one?
Yeah, I guess how I navigate them essentially through my faith in God and trusting that God forgives me, and through his forgiveness, that leads me to forgive those around me, and just kind of getting through life peacefully as can be, and just trusting that at the end of the day, like whatever we face, like God's still the same yesterday, today, and forever. And that is kind of my consistency in life.
One of the things that happens to me when I get really disappointed, it's a circumstance, somebody lets me down, whatever it is, I totally turtle. I go like head in, tail in, legs in, all shell, no bob.
Yeah.
How do you deal with it?
I definitely close up. I get like angry and kind of close up. Or I go surfing and just like get it out, or go get exercise. Like those are definitely things that help me. I wouldn't say the climbing up helps me eventually, especially if it's relationally. Like if it's with my husband, I usually like close off to him, which I've recognized that. So it's like a work in progress to just try to recognize it sooner rather than later, and like just deal with it, and talk together, sit down and just talk together.
It's so good because that's a real part. People know of the larger story, the kind of world story about your life. But for all of us, we're just trying to navigate the daily disappointments and the things. And then how do we do that? And what I'm finding is that I can say to Sweet Maria Goff, I can say, hey, can we just bookmark this for a moment? Because I'm trying to find the right words. There's a bunch of wrong words I could access right now, but I'm just trying to find some right words. So give me a moment, and then let's loop back to it in an hour. And that's actually been a really good and respectful and honoring thing.
I like
that. Keeps me from totally turtling. And she knows that there's some turtle happening because I'm like, fewer points of reference for me because I just started getting. Some people deal with conflict by raising their voice. And they just want to punch a wall or do some more unhealthy expressions of that. When I feel myself going around the bend with a disappointment, I find myself asking, like, why? This just feels so unfair to me. And we were kind of laughing together about fairs where pigs win ribbons. But to just say, what do you say when you think about having a fair life? Because some would look at your life and not just the big moments that everybody knows about, and to say, how do you navigate a feeling of when something doesn't feel fair?
Yeah, it's weird. I haven't put as much focus on like the feeling of fair. Maybe I've accepted that life's not fair at a younger age. And I think too, just facing like the loss of my arm, I recognize that like the world is full of sin and there's no getting around that. And the sin is always going to be there and is always going to be a problem in one shape or another. And so that has led me to kind of have to forcibly rely on God and just know that like, well, at the end of the day, like, I have said, like John 16:33, I have said these things, or in me you will have peace. In the world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. And I, Bethany, am not going to overcome the world, but with the help of Jesus Christ, I can overcome the world because he has done it for me. And so the fair aspect of life isn't going to happen because there's just too much sin and evil, but Christ has kind of made a way. And as long as I'm on earth, I'm still going to be dealing with this battle of the sin and evil, but there's still a lot of good and beauty, and God is constantly providing. So
somehow, like, kind of lifting your eyes, and that's what hope does. It just, instead of kind of staring down at your feet and saying, like, why is this happening? What I've tried to do is a change of perspective. It might be going out and paddling around a little bit.
Yeah.
It might be something where you just lift your eyes and hope. If you're listening and you've been in some despair, or there's been something that's gone really wonky, a relationship, a job, whatever it is, something where you felt totally misunderstood, I would say just lift your eyes. Find some hope. find some beauty around you. And that's where we push back against the darkness. And it isn't just this like yippee skippy, everything's going to turn out great, but it's actually a deep-seated belief by looking at a history of how good God has been along the way, that every time he's delivered, but he doesn't deliver like Amazon.
Yeah, I know. We all want Amazon Prime,
Yes.
and we think that we pray for Amazon Prime, but like God's got his own timing. I love that analogy.
But to say like, well, I want things immediately, everything, and to just work on this idea of there's got to be some patience. It's going to come later, and that isn't a lack of engagement. It's the opposite. It's like filled with perspective that it's going to take a little while. For a God that says a day is like 1,000 years and 1,000 years is like a day, man, that is a whole different way of seeing it. And so slowing down the tempo. If you met some people that are in their 80s or 90s and they just seem kind of calm about everything, they're really chill because they've just seen it all. They've been, and they just go, it's going to take a while. And there's something I want to like channel 90-year-old Bob. They could just say like right now where I'm still a little impatient, just say like, just chill out, keep breathing. Get a puppy.
I wonder if you'll be patient at 90.
Are you not picking up on that vibe? I'm going to be jumping motorcycles when I'm 90.
I guess I didn't know you when you were 40, so we'll see.
Yeah. I think one of the things that happens is that we change over time. Like, so if you met me at 40, I'm like a hard-charging trial lawyer. Isn't that crazy? Was that hard to see me as we've known each other in a different context? You're just going to be like, wait, like really? I wasn't mean. I was a happy, hard-charging trial lawyer. But we each have these many different chapters in our lives, and there's things that you're capable of, and then there's things that you're called to. And they may be one and the same. You might be capable of something you're called to. But to say that one of the things that we could all share in common is to share some love and hope and just giving people what they need. Instead of telling people what they ought to have, just give them what they need. And the crazy part is people will self-prescribe. They will say, this is actually what I need. And you could draw it out of them. What is the things that you need the most from your friends around you?
Oh, I just really appreciate quality time and just time spent with them, and just being able to relate to each other and share life together.
We were talking about going under the ice cap, just to go a little bit deeper in our friendships and our conversations. If you're listening, don't settle for just the surface stuff. Everything doesn't need to be big and intense and like, how's your marriage? I'd warm up to that and we kind of like actually earn the right through consistency instead of, otherwise it feels like a mugging to try to go a mile deep. It's like a scuba diver going too deep, too fast. Everybody gets the bends, right? So to say,
I always get overwhelmed when people go super deep immediately on like social media is such a big thing of my generation. Like I came from before there was social media, and then it like flooded in during my early 20s or whatever. And I always get so intrigued by like there's so many people that just go dive super deep right away all over for everyone to see. And I don't get it. I'm like, wait, I don't know you. Like, why are you going so deep? It's so like, it's such an interesting culture versus kind of earning your right to speak into people's lives or get really, really icebergy deep.
Yeah, there's something about just kindness that would be the bellwether of how we'd go. Would it be kind to do that and to say, instead of my curiosity, I actually want to get there together, walking side by side for a distance, rather than trying to just jump off the cliff together, because sometimes you have an unwilling participant. Did you have somebody that's ever wanted you to jump off a cliff with them, and then they either pushed or grabbed you and threw you off together?
Maybe. My friends and I used to play this game, Queen of the Rock. It's like Mermaid Queen.
Yes,
so we were constantly
rock,
shoving each other off. But funny story is, the first time I met my husband, we went and jumped off a cliff but we did it willingly together.
So that would be a great analogy for this, whether you're pushing or pulling people off
Into the ocean, by the way.
Yeah. I feel like filled in the rest of that.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, but I would say in relationships, if you want to understand the setbacks that people have had, I would find out a lot more about them before you talk about that. You could eventually get there, but to have those conversations, you don't want to pull somebody off the cliff. You might be ready to dive. They might not be ready to dive. And so one of the things that I've picked up in our friendship is just tenderhearted, kind, super chill, but you have big ambitions for other people. You are trying to inspire many people with your own podcast. There's a documentary out. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, so I had a film made about, I wrote several books, Soul Surfer being kind of like the main one.
Which is awesome, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. And that would led into the movie Soul Surfer. And then I set out to make a documentary short, just 10-minute, like action surfing, like me just like pushing women surfing. I had met this filmmaker who he saw my surfing and he was blown away, and he was like, we need to do something and like just share your surfing. So it started off as that, and then we led from there. As we were making the film, a lot happened. I got married, I had a son, and I wasn't planning on being a mother when I first had my first son. And so just this whole journey of like adjusting to motherhood, and then I continued surfing. And so it just goes, the film captures my life from childhood to the loss of my arm to entering into motherhood and wifehood, and then but also like pushing women surfing to the like max capacity that I have, and in that like just pursuing my dreams and my passion for riding waves. And yeah, so it was just such a wild journey. It wasn't like what I had anticipated, but it turned into something really cool. And I just, I can't say I'm really passionate about storytelling, but I've grown to appreciate it. And through my own life, just seeing the impact of storytelling has been just really mesmerizing, and just seeing God work in especially young people's lives. Like I just have a heart for like teenagers and young adults and just all that they're facing and going through, and just wanting to encourage them in their setbacks or their obstacles. And
you really want to encourage authenticity. I was part of one of your episodes that you put out, and for Unstoppable.
Yes.
And tell us about what Unstoppable is. What's your goal?
And thank you, Bob, for being a part of Unstoppable. So after making the film, like we had just been wanting to give more to people. Like I've been in this place of inspiration and just inspiration more from a distance, but we wanted to just, my husband and I were looking for a way to give more, and we have a team of like-minded people who are just passionate to inspire and encourage others. So we've created this online course to just dive deep into life and all the things that can lead us to live a more unstoppable life. And just really inspiring people just through all the things that I've felt that have helped me along the way, and that I see make those who I view as kind of unstoppable, so to say.
Yeah. And
so
tell
it's been really fun.
Yeah, for folks that want to dial into that, what's the link? Where
you can check it out at my website, BethanyHamilton.com. And yeah, or if you know any young people that are going through a tough time that might be interested, I would love for you to send them our way, because this course is just all about encouraging y'all in your journey, and you get to hear from Bob too. So
what I really like is that you're encouraging real conversations about real issues of the day. And
but then on top of that, we're adding in a bunch of like written out tools, and we do monthly Q&As, and it's just a big kind of package of like, I don't know, I love learning from other people. So for me to kind of be on the other side of it feels a little weird, but I'm also like, I know there's a lot of people that are like me that want to learn and grow and
you're killing it.
Better themselves. So it's cool to kind of just be able to give more. And just share life on a deeper level.
Okay, so tell us what you're going to be doing next. It involves a lot of surfing.
Yeah, so next year, I've been a competitive surfer ever since I was a young girl, but that has kind of taken the back burner maybe the last 8 years. And so now I'm a mom of 2, and my husband's like, I've just been, competition has been a strong topic of conversation in our household. And after doing Unstoppable, and I had some really successful events in the last few years, and I was just kind of getting the competitive vibe. So I'm going to be doing the World Qualifying Series in hopes of qualifying for the World Surfing League Tour, which is kind of like the NBA of surfing. So I'll be in college basketball, trying to get in the NBA.
Wow.
So,
and when does it all start?
It starts, I think, around March. I'm waiting for the schedule any day now. But we'll be bringing the whole family along. My husband's been paddling out in some junkie surf with me, just trying to help me get better, and we'll run heats. And I got a coach, and so I'm putting a lot of time into just my art sport and having fun.
Will a lot of this be happening in Hawaii, or is it around the world?
It's worldwide. So it'll be Australia, America. There's actually not too many events in Hawaii, but I know there's some events in Japan, New Zealand, Europe.
And are you feeling excited? I can see kind of
I'm
dressed
really
this
excited,
could be awesome.
but very nervous because I view it as one of the hardest challenges in sports across the board. And it's also one of my weaker areas. So I'm looking forward to just continuing on the journey, especially the next 4 months of pushing myself to overcome different areas that are weaker areas for me. I thrive in beautiful, powerful surf, and I can surf 6 hours straight in epic waves, but I'm going to be putting myself in really poor surfing conditions, competing against younger, whippy, snappy surfer girls. So yeah, it's just really interesting because you're kind of putting yourself in the hardest ocean conditions that won't necessarily be super, I don't know, it's when you get a really beautiful canvas, it makes you want to paint all over it, whereas I'm kind of getting a beat up, rugged, ripping, falling apart canvas that is not as exciting. So I'm trying to change my mindset to get excited about the rugged canvas.
Yeah, lifting your eyes. I mean, I would say that's just been what you've been doing your whole life, to see, I'm going to find the beauty in these waves that are actually just all blown out.
And I definitely feel really compelled by the conditions. I'm gosh, I've mastered a lot of different areas of the ocean, but this area definitely I haven't. And so it feels really challenging in an exciting way.
Well, we are going to be listening in. You'll hear us cheering
Thank you.
Starting in March. And I just want to commend for not only you for your courage in taking on this new challenge, but for the people listening to say, what's a challenge that's in front of you? Let's say it's a relationship and it just got really wonky. You may not have lost an arm doing that, but it felt like it. It felt like you got your heart broken. There was a huge setback. And I would say the message that you've been given to all of us, get back in the water. And do you have to overcome a couple of things? And I really love that we're not talking.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, but it's possible.
I love that we're talking at the beginning of this next adventure where there's a bunch of questions, because it's easy to have the snapshot on Facebook afterwards. You're standing holding the trophy.
Yeah.
I won everything. But this is this uncertain time to say, I'm just going to have to paddle out into some stuff that wouldn't be my first pick.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make the changes that I need to make this a beautiful thing. So thank you for making time for us today. I'm
My
just so
pleasure.
grateful for you.
Thank you for having
Love
me.
to your beautiful, beautiful family. And we are going to be watching.
Thanks, Bob.
We know for many of you, you have big dreams and big ambitions that you want to pursue, but you don't really know how, and you hardly ever have the time to get around to focusing on them. Well, many of you have the time now that the world is shutting down, but the question is still, what do I do next? For a limited time, we're opening up 3 of the Dream Big digital courses. One for adults, one for college-age students or 20-somethings called Dream Big Taking Off, and our latest digital course for people who want to become public speakers. Now that you've got the time, let Bob guide you step by step. Go to dreambigframework.com/courses to learn more and sign up today. So one of the things, as you were talking with Bethany, Bob, that stuck out to me, it wasn't just that she had this attack, lost her arm, but what she said, I was never planning on being a public figure. And I think there's a sense of loss there as well, or at least a significant change. How do you dream through the midst of these things that are changing in our lives? How do you kind of go through that process so you come out the other side like she is, optimistic, clear, wise, and deep?
Yeah, that's, that well-tread saying, the only thing that's constant is change.
Yeah.
That we're just always changing. And that's actually throughout Scripture, this idea of a new creation. And it isn't always a limb that we've lost. It's a relationship, it's a hope, it's a dream, it's a setback. And then what do you do next? And you may even lose your privacy. You can have a bigger public life than you had originally thought about. And with that comes being misunderstood, and some people have different ideas about things. They'll have thoughts that they want to share with you to help you along the way. And they're oftentimes still working on their people skills, as we all are. And so as you're listening to this, I hope you'll reflect on things in your own life to say, when has there been a setback, when there's been a loss? And while it might not be as evident as someone else's loss, it's still just as painful. It's still just as real. And what do we do with that? And I think the answer is just get real with it. Just be authentic. Just say, man, that was actually a loss. The first thing to acknowledge. That was a loss. That totally stinks. That hurt.
Yeah.
And then to say, so now I'm not going to camp out there. Where am I going from here?
What do I do in the midst of what I've been given?
Yeah.
As the stories change.
So this is the new set of characters in my life. This is the new reality and circumstance in my life. What I'm going to do from here is, and whether you pull over to decide that or you have a conversation with a trusted friend to decide that, just get real with it. And that's where it gets really good in your life. I'm telling you, heaven's leaning over the rails. They just want to hear you get real with that so that you can move forward, develop a plan, get back to building your rocket ship.
Yeah, so as you're listening to this, I think it'd be an interesting exercise to imagine if you were on the show and we were interviewing you about the things that have changed in your life and what you've learned from those things, how you've changed. What would you say? What are you dealing with? What are you doing with all that stuff that's been given to you? Yeah,
and then don't keep that a secret. Find a friend and tell them, I was listening to this podcast and they asked this question. Here are my answers. And what are your answers? And that'll actually be the best coffee date you've had all week.
Yep. So thanks for listening in, and stay tuned next week as we have another great friend on the show.